Lots of people talk about how US tech is priced to perfection. I guess they have a lot. The valuations of these big tech companies means they have a lot to live up to in this earnings season.
Indeed, they're all sizzling right now, but I think they've continued to perform. If you look at the numbers, these companies are all hitting on all cylinders right now, so it's a tremendous time. Investors want to be where the action is, and these are all growth companies with tremendous upside.
And you follow these companies because you're in the tech space and you can't not, but also because they could be the companies that come and buy some of the smaller European players that you're invested in. So what's the relationship like between big tech and maybe smaller European tech is the part that you're playing in?
Sure, I think there's an increasing symbiosis. You see companies like Google and Facebook acquiring companies in Europe. Snapchat has 300 people in Ukraine, of all places. So you're seeing an increasing amount of thirst for talent, and you can't find that in California anymore. So California companies are coming to Europe, and they want to hoover things up as much as they can.
Matt?
Do we see the same kind of engagement in Europe as we do in the U.S.? I mean, I moved here to Berlin 3 years ago, and I was impressed by the kind of anti-Facebook. You have to press 5 buttons every time you get to a new website because there's cookies on it. People are all concerned about privacy so much that they make it impossible to surf the web. Is it a different story here, or are they just putting up barriers that we can knock over?
I think it's very nuanced. It creates a lot of frustration. I mean, I've yet to see any real benefit from all these warnings and pop-ups. Of course, I know I'm going to be getting cookies when I visit a website, so it doesn't really do me any good. I think it's a useful conversation to have someone else talking about privacy, someone else talking about data usage, but the Europeans sometimes go too far, and I think continentally you have a knee-jerk response sometimes to overregulate. The continent historically has been a regulator of tech rather than a net creator of tech, so it's a fine balance. But in the trenches with founders and young companies, you're seeing the same kind of ambitions as you do in California, so I think there's a dichotomy there.
Rob, do we see the same kind of valuations? Because in the U.S., investors are used to higher valuations for tech companies. Momentum is something that they count on. Here, you just see kind of a lower PE. Typically, do we see the same kind of valuations in the tech stocks that you like?
I think it's converging. I mean, I think historically on the public markets, European tech stocks have always been undervalued, and historically there's just been less demand for them. We haven't had a local demand for tech intrinsically at all. On the early stage private side, I think you're seeing a convergence where prices are catching up. They're still cheaper than you might find in California, but you're seeing increasingly American VCs coming here to do deals. And not a week has gone by I haven't seen an American investor flying in from Silicon Valley to look at a deal in the past 6 or 9 months.
And that might not be controversial in Europe at the VC level, but what about when it comes to the bigger companies buying up European unicorns or European even smaller sized businesses? Do you sense what is the latest mood music politically around how keen Europe is to see that kind of money coming into European business?
Again, I think at the higher levels, the bureaucrats don't like the idea of selling national treasures. I think, again, for an ecosystem, you have to have these sorts of sales to build velocity. You have to have these companies sell, founders make money, they become angel investors, they then spawn 20 or 30 new companies of their own. It's a very natural cycle. It's what made Silicon Valley what it is, and I think we need that in Europe. So to me, it's a good thing when you see European companies selling, because it means that money gets recycled and poured into 10 more, 20 more new things that will be the next unicorns.